And you're from Southern California, correct? So, we have some competition here at eXp right now going on. Who here besides me is interested in that? You're from Southern California. Who's interested in that eXp commercial program?
Oh, no.
Yeah? And who's interested in also launching the REO and relocation program going on right now? So there's a lot of competition for eXp learning, and that's what we're all about. So I'm Bill Gross, and this is our weekly eXp agent national mastermind group, where we get together and share within eXp, and I go a little deeper on one topic each week to provide some training and tools and such for you guys to help you with the business. Before we get started, any more questions? Any questions anybody has that I can help you with to get started today?
Yeah, Bill, I asked you a question. I don't think we were communicating texting wise to understand it well enough. And that is, if you have 100 probate cases, what percentage of those cases is usually a cash buyer that's going to come in and just buy as is, as opposed to them putting money into the house, fixing it up and selling it on the retail market? Just a general ballpark figure.
Oh, when you say cash as is, I think of it as, when you say cash as is, to me, that means they're going to fix it up and sell it.
No. I'm talking about like an investor saying, I'll buy your property for $100,000.
Yeah.
Here's the cash. You get it done within 5 days and that's it. Or I go as the realtor and say, instead of selling it for cash to that person, we can go ahead and you could put $30,000 or $40,000 into the property. We can make $250,000 on the property.
We get the latter, almost all of the time. Almost all are buying the property as is, and they're fixing it up and flipping it. Very few estates where I want to put money in, put cash in the property, fix it and sell it. I talk about it a lot on training classes, but my experience is very, very rare.
So Express Offers is a good platform to use for these
people. The problem is Express Offers, you can't work with court confirmation if that's required. But if they have full authority, they don't need court confirmation. You usually give a cash price. Express Offers is a great tool to have in your toolbox. Definitely.
So court confirmation, though, that's only if there's no will. But if there's a will, you don't need court confirmation, most likely. Correct?
California, whether you have a will or not, you're still in probate. The issue is different. You have full or limited authority.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the other question: in order to list the property, you have to have the letters testamentary, correct?
Well, I only know the law in California. The answer is basically yes. Sometimes you can go to the prospect ahead of time and say, well, it can list the property, but we sign disclosure, they know it's not legally binding. And theoretically, and Paul Horn, the attorney who teaches at our Association of Realtors in California, says that's acceptable as long as all parties know that and disclosing in the MLS as well.
Gotcha.
But definitely.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Great. So the topic I want to talk about today, continuing in the 11 ways that I know of that you can make money as an agent, buying or selling property and probate. We're going to continue with number 3, which is marketing leads to attorneys. A quick recap: number 1 we said was pre-probate, before it's in a probate situation. Number 2 we said was marketing to the petitioner. So number 3 is, and this is a common one that companies will tell you is easy, is a market to attorneys. Now, what I want to say is, my experience, I'm a broker, I'm not selling data, I'm not selling coaching. My experience is only in Los Angeles, which is a very competitive market. And my experience is that nothing is easy and everything here is competitive. Now, if you work in a much lower intensity county of the United States, where you're the only agent who's prospecting in the probate space, then this is a different discussion entirely. There's less volume and there's less attorneys and it's more personal. I'm going to share with you what it's like to be in a major metro area. My experience being Los Angeles is the largest. So four key points on marketing attorneys, but before we say that, I'm going to give you an overview. You have to know your market. So for example, when I started in probate, I bought the data of the probate filings. There's different data sources. And some of them let you go ahead and download the past data. And so I did that. I actually downloaded the prior 2 years, all probate filings in LA County. What I discovered was that of all the cases, now in California, or I should say in LA County, we have about 500 a month. So there's 6,000 maybe a year filings, 12,000 in 2 years. Of those 12,000, only 5% were done by attorneys who did more than one a year. So if you're marketing to attorneys, know that they only get one a year for the most part, unless you're talking about the top few attorneys in your market area. They're probably pretty easy to identify. Somebody who only does one of anything a year, think of yourself as a realtor. If you only sold one condo or one vacant land or one horse property or one lease, how good at it are you ever going to be? You're never really going to learn it that well. And that's how attorneys are. They might know the law and be smart people, but they may not know the intricacies of the probate process. And so you're marketing people who don't know much about the details you're talking about, but know a lot about a lot of things. It's a challenging market to go to, but you have to know who you're marketing to make sure you're appropriate. So most of the people you're emailing to and don't like spam. Most people you mail to don't like mail, but most people getting your mail don't do a probate but once a year. And when they do file a probate, they get 30 pieces of mail all of a sudden. How do you stand out? Right? So you have to think about that. And I think that generally nobody likes to be cold called. Nobody likes to be marketed to. Attorneys tend to more so, in my experience. So I think you have to tailor your marketing approach to them. So I have 4 main points. Number 1, act like them. They're not going to respect you if they think of you as a real estate hack. They'll respect you if you act like one of them. So how do you act like them? Well, one is dress like them. I used to go to court every day. When I went to court, I wore a Brooks Brothers suit, white shirt, silk tie. I carried a particular briefcase I saw a lot of the attorneys use. My hair cut short, wore glasses, even though I don't need them. I need them for the computer. I don't need them for distance. I purposely wore them to look more like an attorney. It was my costume, if you want to think of it that way. I dressed like them. My business cards were like them. Meaning when you hand an attorney a business card with your picture and logo on half of it, what's the attorney going to think of when they see your card? Real estate hack. If you ever get business cards from attorneys, they tend to be simple, black and white with just their name, company, address, phone number on it, maybe the license number on it. So I made a second set of business cards that looked just like that. So in my pocket, I had the front were my realtor cards, the back were my attorney cards. When I met attorneys, I gave them an attorney card. When I met court personnel, I gave them the attorney card. When I met investors, homeowners, I gave them the business card that I think is more effective with my picture on it and all that. So I look like them. My email looked like theirs. My emails to and from them look like theirs. So in the subject line, I would put, for example, case number 18 STPB 70123, decedent Joe Smith, real estate for sale, because that's how their emails look. Dear Mr. Jones, that's how they start their emails. Best regards at the end. That's not how I send my normal emails. That's how I send emails to attorneys. That makes sense? So what other ways might you want to look like attorneys? Well, just think about it, I guess. In your marketing material that you give them, it should look like attorney's marketing material. Okay? I don't think cold calling works. I think if you're calling, there better be a purpose to the call and reference. So when I call, I'm not cold calling 50 attorneys if I was calling on a filing. I'd say, hey, Mr. Finkelstein, this is Bill Gross calling from eXp Realty. I'm calling about your probate case number 18 STPB 70247. I think your client is the petitioner, Mr. Jones. Do you have a minute to speak? Very businesslike, very proper, very formal. Also bring value and service to the attorney's calls. Bring value and attorney to service calls. Okay, so the number 1 point is to act like them. Number 2 is multiple touches. Now, if you're only going to send something out right away when they file the case, and then afterwards, well, they've already selected a vendor. How effective is that? That's the challenge to get their attention. And so I think you're better off not cold calling the roster of probate attorneys, but getting to your roster of attorneys, the ones that you have in your database, and we'll talk about that at the end. But in all marketing, you have to have multiple points of touch. Number 3, what's your specialty? The funny thing they'll all joke to you about is how many realtors specialize in probate. So what's your niche? So in my case, my niche is I'm the specialist in properties sold at court confirmation sales in LA County. That's my specialty. Now in your market, maybe it's broader and different. I don't know. In my market, if I'm just another probate attorney, a probate specialist, I'm the 30th that called them and sent them a mail. How do I stand out? That niche isn't tight enough. Any questions so far? You can put in the chat box, raise your hand, or just jump in on the call. Any questions? Yes, no.
Yeah. What I just started doing today, I sent out my first 6 mailers to my probate leads. I'm going to do 6 a day and then follow up a week later with the phone calls. I wrote down on index cards all the attorneys for each of those cases. And what I want to do is over the next month, I want to get about 100 leads, and I want to take a look and see which of these attorneys are doing more of the cases. And then I'm going to rank the attorneys in order of who's doing the most, and maybe try to, stop by the office and just give them a packet of information on who I am, and meet the secretaries, meet the gatekeepers who are answering the phone calls. So in the future, if I can't meet with them on that moment, if I can make a good enough impression with the gatekeeper, when I call the next time, I might be able to get through a lot easier because they associate the face with the name and everything else and the materials that I sent them.
So again, I think it's multiple touches. I think every time, wow, all of a sudden my eyes are hurting. Every time you talk to a prospect and they have an attorney, you want to reach out to that attorney and then keep marketing them. I think as realtors, we need to market to everybody we ever meet. So when you do meet that attorney, if and when you do, again, this is now during COVID, but pre and post COVID, I'd make a point of trying to meet them in the hallway. I would look and see when they're in court next to try to bump into them. I would look online for their pictures so I knew who they were. So I would walk up and say, excuse me, I believe you're attorney Neil Finkelstein. Yes, I am. Oh, I'm Bill Gross. I'm working with your client, Mr. Jones, right? So try to attack them for 2 or 3 different points of attack rather than just one. And I think following up with them is critical in the long run. So multiple touches. Next, we talk about your specialties, number 3. Number 4, you meet them. Now, attorneys, by their nature, meet people. Almost universally, attorneys meet for lunch, meet for coffee at court, meet for lunch by appointment. They tend to be networkers. That's how they build their business. If you ask most attorneys, how do you build their business? They're going to tell you they meet people and go to lunch with them. And over time, they do that enough times, they build a business. So they're used to somebody calling them and saying, hey, Neil, it's Bill Gross. I'm a real estate broker in the LA area. I see you're in Westlake Village. I'd love to share about how I can help you build your business. What if you might be free for lunch one day next week? Does Tuesday work for you, or is Wednesday better? They're used to somebody calling them, inviting them to lunch because they're used to doing that as well. They're also looking for opportunities to network. So if as part of your real estate practice, you have already a networking group, I do a couple of Zoom calls. I invite them on the Zoom call. They like that. They promote their business that way. So invite them to lunch. Bump into them at court. Invite them out for coffee afterwards or before. If you know they're going to be at a hearing, say, Mr. Finkelstein, notice that you're going to be at a hearing on June 4th, or you're scheduled for one at the Jacksonville Courthouse. Are you planning on being there in person or online? I'll be there in person. Great. I'm going to be there as well. I was wondering if you have time afterwards, I can take you out for a cup of coffee and I can meet you. They're used to that. That's normal for them. That's their normal flow. They also take a look at in your local area bar associations. Now, again, we're in COVID, whatever that means to you guys. But in normal times, bar associations have regular luncheons, regular cocktail hour parties, regular networking events. And so one way to get involved is to go to the meetings, join as an affiliate member, sign up to be a sponsor of their events. Find a title rep that can bring in some value to them, maybe in some continuing education classes. Invite them to events. Another event you should be looking for are professional fiduciary related events. or other good business networking events. Invite them if you find out they're talking about going to business events. When I was a mortgage person inviting realtors, when Tony Robbins had local events, I would invite realtors to those events, showing them that I'm connected to Tony Robbins. If you find an attorney interested, like I found one interested in Grant Cardone. Well, I also follow Grant Cardone's online stuff and his books and such. It's a good way to meet with people, but invite them to events. And then lastly, I would say co-market events with them. Offer to co-market an event online now during COVID or after on how to process probate. These guys get phone calls from people that don't use them. You can get their list of leads, show them how they can re-invite them to a online call on probate, position them as the expert to their prospects, and get some business as a result of that. Also, living trust or how to avoid probate. So co-market events with them is another way to meet them or work with them in person to help them build their business. By helping them build their business, obviously you're becoming a partner in their business. So again, the 4 key points are act like them, multiple touches, be memorable, what's your specialty, and meet them whenever you can. And meet today means online as well as person. Now, I want to emphasize the most important though is your own network. If you're a brand new realtor, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're a realtor who's been in business for a couple of years, especially if you're full-time making a living at it, you already have in your database either attorneys that you don't know about. You sold them a house, but you don't know what kind of law they do or forgot their attorneys. Or you have clients who know attorneys that do probate. You all do. Anybody here who's been in business a while. Sue, how long have you been in business?
4 years.
Full-time, part-time?
Full-time.
Making a living at it?
Yep.
How many people do you have in your database?
Not enough. I
Number one,
didn't
that's
do it.
right. You
I
should
didn't
have
do
at
it.
least 200.
I have a few hundred, but I didn't keep a good database until I came to eXp.
Okay. But you should identify all of your database as either attorney or not. If they're not attorney, do they have a living trust or not? If they don't have a living trust, they need one if they're going to buy a house, true? Everybody who buys a house in California should have a living trust to avoid probate. That's a true statement. So you can call your prospects in the course of talking to them about real estate. You call them, tell them what a great market is, so they have plans to buy or sell. I'm curious, I didn't make a note in my database on you. Do you have a living trust? No, I don't. Are you aware of how important it is if you're going to buy a house? It's another way to generate business relationship with your prospect. And obviously, everybody who needs a living trust becomes a lead you refer to an attorney or attorney service that can help them with that. So any realtor like you, Sue, one great phone call is calling your past client database. A second great call is while you're talking to them, ask them, do they have a living trust or not? And create a field or a tag, if you're using KV Core, living trust or no living trust. All those who don't have a living trust, you invite to a monthly meeting on why they should have one and how they can get it. And those with living trust, you want to ask them, I do a whole class on this, but who's the attorney that did it for them? And if they like them, you can refer other people to that person. It gives you an excuse to call that attorney and introduce yourself. Those are the attorneys that go in your database that you should be marketing to most. We're excited to cold call attorneys, but we're missing the attorneys that are sitting in our database already. And that should be your focus. Okay, that's my prepared material on marketing to attorneys that file probates. Questions? Was this helpful at all? Yeah? Questions, comments? No?
I'm just ready to start tackling the lists and get going, and the questions will come.
Great.
Oh, so I guess I'll just talk about express offers real quick. So how would I know if there's court confirmation or not? That's in the probate orders, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I would have to ask the attorney that question on the probate case. So that would be a reason to call the attorney and discuss the case with them and say, I represent eXp. We have an express offers platform that can offer cash, but they can't wait for court confirmation. Is there court confirmation on this case? And I can just simply ask that question. Would that be a way to approach it?
You can, but you might find the data you're getting, it might already have in there if it's full limited authority.
It does. All of them say full authority. If it's full authority, then we don't need court confirmation. Then, correct?
Correct.
Oh, fine, perfect. Yeah. So that answers my question. Then, okay, good.
Now, a more sophisticated question might be, I call you Attorney Neil Finkelstein. Mr. Finkelstein, I noticed that the filing was for full authority. I don't see maybe your letters aren't approved yet. If I happen to know that, or I don't know that, I would say that I notice your letters aren't approved yet. Do you anticipate the spiking full authority needing court confirmation or not? In Los Angeles, if there's multiple errors or there's objections, even with full authority, they might still go to court approval just to avoid any conflict. That's something to be aware of and worth asking a question. But again, I don't know in Jacksonville and Florida in particular what the rules are. I wouldn't do that. Just something to think about for future reference.
Also, I'm sorry, one more question. I came across a lead that the person passed away in March of 2019, but they just filed for probate in November. That's like a year and a half more before they even filed. Can you give me a scenario how that makes sense?
They didn't know they need to file probate. People assume father dies and leaves the property to me and his only heir. They assume it's theirs to sell. They list the house. Most realtors don't know. They can't really list the house because title's in the name of dad. Maybe they get into escrow. Maybe they finally open a prelim and escrow looks at that and says, hey, the property's in dad's name. Oh, I inherited it. Nobody bothered to ask, why is the title not changed yet? That happens from time to time. They just may not have wanted to do anything. Maybe they're living in the house or renting it, and the tenant just moved out and now it becomes an issue for them. In California, you're obligated to file the will within 3 days of notice of death. Technically, you're violating the law if you don't. Nobody gets penalized for it. But that's one of a couple possible scenarios. I'm sorry, Cindy, I had to mute you. There's some background noise. If you have a question, though, feel free to jump in, Cindy.
Yeah, I was going to say for Neil, in Florida, if there's a sales contract that you can put in place with the personal representative, the attorney can take that to the judge for the judge to approve it.
Say that again, Cindy.
If the sales contract gets put in place with the personal representative because they have the authority to do so, that sales contract can be taken to the judge for the judge to approve it.
At any time?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good to know.
Great. Any other questions? Put in a chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself and jump in.
I do. I have a question.
Sure, Sue.
How would you know, who would you talk to find out what that law is? I'm under the impression in Arizona, after they file probate, they can sell the property, but they cannot spend the proceeds. It goes into like a escrow account or something. How would I find out the exact law versus just I heard?
Well, I think you want to talk to an attorney, and I think you want to find an attorney. And I try to use, when I started, I found 1 or 2 attorneys I took to lunch that became friends I could ask questions to. But I also bought some books on probate in California. I watched videos. I took training classes. So I think those are things you want to know the answer to. In California, and I imagine it's everywhere, if you don't have the authority approved, you can't technically sell the house. When you have the authority but not full authority, you can sell the house, but the money either stays in the estate bank account, or if you're bonded, then the money can be used for other purposes. However, you can't distribute out to heirs. You can only distribute expenses. So if you have money to save, pay for taxes and mortgage, that can go through escrow. Things like cleanup costs and move out companies and that, they can maybe put it in the escrow, or paid outside of escrow once the property sells. So in California, they'll typically get a bond to cover the proceeds. So if the net revenue at the close of escrow is $400,000, they'll get a $400,000 bond. The $400,000 goes into the estate account, but the estate can only use that for expenses. They can't pay out distributions to heirs yet. And so at the end, when they file the final accounting, the court approves it and says, okay, everybody's paid, and now you can distribute. And then the final accounting is how much the heirs end up getting after the taxes and creditors and everything's paid out. Okay? I'm sure it's similar in Arizona. Sue, find an attorney and report back to us. Love to find out the right answer. That's what this group is designed for, to help each other and get resources. I'll tell you what we're going to be doing as part of my expansion and attraction business. We're creating a national association of probate experts. And we're looking for real estate agents in every county to head that association, and then chapters at the state level. And part of our marketing is going to be to have online and local events when COVID allows, and including not just realtors, but attorneys, to allow us to market. The attorneys help promote their business, to promote our business. And so in some of the local chapters, obviously I'm looking to do attraction and add new agents to my downline. In some markets, we'll have eXp agents who are already on board with us, as long as they can contribute by bringing in the attorneys. So this is a process you can do on your own. I did on my own. I've done videos where I've interviewed in Jacksonville. I interviewed Al Nicoletti, who's a local prominent attorney. And real estate agents in California were glad to hear his perspective on the business. So Sue, it's a good opportunity for you to reach out to your database. You just might ask, as you talk to your past clients, I'm curious, I'm looking for a probate attorney I have some questions for. And they may know somebody. What a nice way to meet somebody. And if you ask them out, you might say, hey, you've been so nice. I don't know where you are, Sue, and what COVID's like where you are. Maybe you ask them out for lunch. Maybe you send them lunch. Maybe you send them a nice book afterwards. But you use that to start your prospecting relationship with that attorney.
Bill, I'm a little intimidated networking with other probate experts in my area since I'm so new. I would hate to feel I'm going to lose my leads to these other people.
Okay.
It's scary.
Well, look, I think that in sales, you can come from scarcity or abundance. There's more than enough business in Jacksonville, Florida for you and everybody else. And I think the more that's done by your company makes you look like a more logical choice. I started that way too, and I know a lot of agents are that way, even in LA. But I believe that when the judge hears eXp Realty over and over again, the attorneys hear eXp Realty over and over again, it's branding from me when they're joined on the same firm. So I think in the long run, and that's the beauty of eXp, that's the beauty of our rev share, that's the beauty of our stock, is that we can focus on what's best for the customer, not what's best just for me in the short run. So try not to think transactionally and think about building a business. Imagine if I found another person with you and you two became the dominant forces of probate in Jacksonville, Florida. From where you are now, what could that do to your business to be one of two? It'd be phenomenal, right?
Well, I like the fact that a lot of people say they don't want to take two sides of the listing. So if I do have a second person, I can work the business that way, and we can basically share all the leads, being one as a seller, one as a buyer.
But how many probate sales are there in Jacksonville in a month?
I haven't downloaded my leads, but I got 85 last month, and I got 65 the month before.
How many do you need to have a great business?
A great business, 5 to 10.
I think you have a great business, you have one or two.
Have a good.
Keep in mind, one or two.
The price points here are pretty bad. You sell a house for like $100,000, maybe 200 to 300 tops.
Okay.
It's not like Southern California. You sell one or two houses a year and you got it made.
So if your average is 200,000 at 3%, that's $6,000. That's the listing. You'll double in half of those, and probate will become half of your business. So one a month is $6,000, $12,000, $25,000 a month in terms of an overall general business.
How do
Okay.
you get 25,000?
Because I think if you did one probate a month, you would also do another half probate sale a month. And I think if you had 3 deals, you would end up doing 1/2 non-probate deals from referrals, past clients of those people. Attorneys will send you a non-probate deal. So now you're doing 3 deals a month or 4 deals a month times $6,000.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Cindy, thanks for joining us. And sorry, I see you have to run. I think we'll wrap up here unless you have any questions. Call, text, or email. I am in the workplace. You can text or email me there. I do a call on Tuesdays on real estate investment at 3 p.m. Pacific time. If you have any property that's off market, you want to pitch, feel free to bring that there as well. And thank you guys for being a part of what we do. eXp, we have a big week this week. We've launched our REO program. We've launched our reload program today. And we have the convention of commercial business. It's huge. I was there this morning. We had 900 people in the auditorium for the first session. So really exciting week for eXp. Our stock is trading over $108 a share. It hit 110 for a while. So a great time to be with eXp. Thank you guys for being part of this program.